You're listening to Unmuted Love. Hi there, I'm C. Ushelman, and with 35 years as a marriage and family therapist and 25 years as a parent of 2 children I brought home from the foster care system, I want to welcome you here to Unmuted Love Podcast, the one place where nothing is off limits to say out loud about parenting children from difficult beginnings.
Stop for a minute, stop and breathe for a minute. Long it over your head, try to listen instead, won't you? Think for a minute, who you wanna be for a minute. Don't get over your head, you're like everyone else, aren't you?
Sometimes it's real sweet around here, and sometimes it ain't so pretty, because this is 100% Unmuted Love. So let's go.
You'll be just
Hey parents, this is C. Get the help you need to end destructive and chaotic behavior in your home while parenting children from difficult beginnings. I know you need help, and the Love Plus parenting model actually works. I'm inviting you to work with me personally for 6 months in my virtual therapeutic parent program, and I guarantee you results, or 100% of your investment back. How is that for a blue ribbon deal? I'm looking forward to working with you. See you on the inside. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unmuted Love. I'm here today with Janessa Joy, which is a pretty great name, don't you think? We're here to talk a little bit about parenting strategies because we both have parenting strategies for different groups of people. And I'm betting, without having spent much time talking with Janessa, that we are fairly close in how we manage our presentations on therapeutic parenting. So I am going to say that we'll largely be talking about neurodiversity, parenting children with neurodiversity. As you know, most of you have children who we would call neurodiverse because they have experienced complex trauma. So with that, I would love for you, hello, Janessa. I would love for you to just introduce yourself a little better than I just did and say a little bit about how you got yourself here. What was your journey to get here?
So my name's Janessa Joy, and I started out this journey, oh my gosh, over a dozen years ago when my son actually was diagnosed as being autistic. That was not a word that was even in my vocabulary. I didn't even know anyone that was autistic. I hadn't really dived into that world at all. At that time, my kids were very young. I had 3 under the age of 3. I was completely overwhelmed. Things like sensory meltdowns, sensory processing, all of this stuff, all the words and the vocabulary. It was an entirely new world for me. I started going down the path that I think every parent does. You start researching, you start seeing all of these forums online, you start the doctors, the therapists. It becomes an extremely overwhelming journey, extremely quickly. And what I did was, at the time I was teaching college, I couldn't figure out how to make this whole world make sense. What was so confusing to me was that every therapy was so incredibly individual for my child. And yet everyone kept talking about how one of the biggest things that was missing was the fact that my son wasn't understanding concepts of like relationships and socialness. He wasn't understanding connection. And yet nothing was ever focusing on connecting us. So as we kind of fell down the road of like going from therapy to therapy to therapy, our family started breaking apart. My son started getting worse. I started breaking. Everything was getting super stressful. And at one point, my son had slammed the door into his room and he had walked out later with this start of a story. And it was entitled One Red Zebra, which was about a red zebra named Fred. And he loved being a part of a herd, but he couldn't understand why no one else loved his color in the same way that he did. And that started the whole foundation for change for us, because we started really looking into the languages that people were using around my child. We looked at around the languages, the negativity. When you have people that are constantly telling you how tough and terrible and broken your child is, you respond to them in that way. So I just took a whole back approach and we started rebuilding everything. We started learning how to rebuild our family and what that took. We started learning how to really look at my son as completely whole as he was, and how to use his strengths to strengthen everything rather than focusing in on his weaknesses. We learned to just love and appreciate who he was. So switching our mindsets about what success looked like, switching our mindsets about what parenthood looked like, and then teaching other people how to do this as well too, so that they can find the joy in parenting rather than focusing in on the grief. And when you focus in on the joy, your child feels that joy, your family feels that joy. You're able to again connect and grow and be strong together. So that is the start and where we're at right now.
Wow, that's a wonderful story because it has a happy ending, but I'm sure the journey was really difficult in the beginning, right? When you didn't know what to do. And that actually mirrors my journey pretty closely. I adopted two children as a therapist. I'd been a therapist a long time. I adopted two children and I was just instantly hysterical, right? I just didn't know what was going on in my household. What am I looking at here? No idea, none, zero. So I started researching too and went everywhere, took every class, read every book, talked to every specialist, therapist after therapist, and finally pieced it all together what I was looking at. So for me, it was complex developmental trauma. And for you, it was autism, right? And then what does that mean when you have autism? And is it a curse when you have autism? Is it a curse when you have complex developmental trauma? The answer is what? No, it isn't.
No, it's just a part of who you are. It's your identity. And that's where, when we talk about neurodiversity, autism is the diagnosis. Neurodiversity is the mindset that you look at your diagnosis through. And that's as well with your parenting journey, is you can look at your parenting journey as like grief and loss. And this is not what I signed up for, whether it's your adoptive children or your child, or you can learn how to switch your mindset, switch your perspective so that you can actually find the joy in your child and find the joy in your parenting.
Well, how do you do that and still fit in the world?
So that is a really great question. And I think what helps parents is when we start really looking at what are the things that are important to you. So we learn how to define our values. We recognize what it is that we want to change and what's kind of resisting that change. For me personally, my biggest one was I had this value of family and love and growing and joy. And I had all of these things that I wanted, but I also very much had this mindset of what success looked like to me for my child and what success looked like for me as a parent. It wasn't until I was able to switch that. My goal for my child, or all my children, has always been that I want a child that was as independent as possible and who was able to socially contribute in a positive way, in whatever way he possibly could, and could love and felt happy. I wanted him to be happy. So when I looked at kind of those goals, everyone can say, I want my child to be successful, but what does that mean? I mean, there's not very many children that are making it to the NHL or making it to, a millionaire's list, or there's only one CEO of every company. So what does success actually mean to you? And what does it mean for your child? And that's very individual for each child. So actually taking parents through what really you want for your child. And when you talk about fitting in the world, that's what it is. You need to have success for your child. So what does success look like for them?
Right. So what happens for folks that I work with is that they know that in order to maintain or create a relationship with their children, they have to do sort of slow and low parenting where, low demand and less traditional, more therapeutic parenting. And the pushback for them is so great. Their families are like, you're not tough enough, or their friends are like, you're enabling, or school is like, you need to set some boundaries and, have some punishments here for this behavior. We're going to let you know every day what she did wrong, and we're expecting you to do something at home about it.
I'm sitting here, and I know this is a podcast, so people can't see, but it's like oh man, do I feel that one. Like right from my toes to the top of my head, there's goosebumps. It is, yes, I get that feeling.
Mhm.
I've lived that feeling. I live that feeling to this day. I think one of the biggest things, again, it comes down to is learning what is important to you. What are your values? What are your priorities? And how are you going to put them into practice? So, a lot of that is depending on the person and depending what works for them. I talk a lot about family meetings. I talk a lot about how to structure a strong family in the website that I am currently building that's releasing soon. There's a whole course in it that has guidelines as well as like how do you create a family statement and how do you work through when your values clash with your priorities and how do you hear your children but also honor yourself and your partner, because at the end of the day, learning how to create your family unit is incredibly important because that's one of the most important things. And then learning how to create a community of like minded people around you is your second biggest thing. But
Right.
yeah, that's the judgment is real, and learning how to let that go because it is a really important thing. The world's going to have a lot of judgment on you for having anyone that's slightly different and for choosing to honor that difference rather than making them conform. It's a tough journey. So, learning how to be extremely strong in your values, so knowing what they are and knowing how to step into them, I think is incredibly important. I know personally, I had to actually do like a physical release. So, there's a lot of exercises that you can do as well, but it is such an intense feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious in a way about how you came to your values, because what I experienced quite a bit, and I had this myself, is what success meant was you go to school, you do your work, you come home, you do your chores, you participate in the family, and you contribute to the family, and everybody goes off to college or trade school and becomes, an electrician or a teacher or something, and recreates that again, right? Goes off and does that whole epigenetics story again. That's pretty much, I think, what most people are looking for when they think of, what are my values? What does success mean? Well, it means what everybody thinks they think,
Yeah.
right? And that's
And
what I thought.
success, and I would say finances always were when I grew up, like success was equated to finances, success was equated to education, success was equated to not just having a job, but succeeding and moving forward in that job. So I would say that the start of changing my value system and recognizing that things needed to change was really my son. Things were not working for us. It just wasn't. And I realized that we really had to change things in order to make him happy because the way that we were parenting him was breaking him and it was breaking me. And at the same time, my marriage was going through a really big shift. We were trying very hard to stay together, and my ex husband was traveling and only home once a month for around 72 hours. So, just even trying to find success in a marriage that was such a long distance with huge breaks in it, that as well was just trying to find what works. So, when I teach people about values, we kind of go through what makes you happy, what brings you joy. If you could choose this over this, what would you choose? Or we talk about different circumstances and different situations and what would be your way. And it's really amazing when you talk to people how themes come up really quickly and often. And you're able to kind of pull that out and be like, it sounds like these are incredibly important to you. And then kind of just talking about them and redefining. And your life is never static. You know this, right? It's constantly changing. So your values will change as well, too.
Right. And I think that there is a lifestyle change. There's a paradigm shift that goes with the lifestyle change. And there's a radical acceptance process that has to go on, right?
I love that word radical acceptance because it really is. It's very much against the norm.
And you have to accept like who your child really is,
Mhm.
versus who you wish they were or who you want them to be, you know.
Yes.
And that's hard, right? Because we have some idea that we shape our kids into the people we want them to be, but they actually all have a trajectory of their own. And
Absolutely, they do. So, and again, in honor and figuring out how you can find your values and how you can find the things that are important to you, you can use that to find those things that are important for your child so that you can help them on their journey, which I think is an incredible thing.
It's something I think all of us parents really need like medals for or something, right? Don't you think you really deserve a medal for transforming your entire paradigm and
Well, maybe not a medal. So, I mean, not a medal, but I actually just I love being able to talk to parents. I love being able to see that moment where all of a sudden they start connecting and going, oh, oh. And I love that moment where all of a sudden you can hear we had the greatest conversation or we tried this really cool thing. One of the other things that we really encourage, I really encourage, is finding ways to connect with your child on their level as well too, because the journey is tough and your day to day is a hard one, and you're not just with your child parenting, but you have the teacher and you have all these other people in your life that you have to just balance, and having these shining moments with your child, so incredibly important. My son, when he was younger, one of his favorite memories is that we would read an encyclopedia together. It was his favorite one. It's a dinosaur one, and he would never sit still. He'd be like walking around in his circle and doing his thing. But I had little sticky notes on every word, that like the definition, because he told me it had to be pronounced right. So we would read this encyclopedia over and over and over. And I still have it. And the binding is all ripped and torn. It was boring to me, but it was so important to him. And he remembers that to this day, being able to do that. And you have to have moments that you are able to connect with your child.
because relationship is everything, really.
Mhm.
It's the healing factor. It's the key to all things, right? It's the key to success is relationships. So, and I think parents don't really always fully understand how they're the single most important person in their child's life, and they always will be.
What goes hand in hand in that is that when we talk about honoring and loving your child as an individual and really for who they are, it's, I would say, the same way you get to come home from work and you get to take off your bra and you get to be in your comfy clothes and take off your makeup, and you know your family is going to be there, love you, because your mom, your kid needs to be able to come home and decompress. And maybe that's where some of like the behaviors come out, but your kid gets to come home and gets to be celebrated and loved for who they are right here, right now. I understand therapy and the importance of it. I really do. But you can't have therapy 24 hours. You can't ask your child to behave 24 hours. Your child needs to know that even if they are misbehaving, that love isn't taken away and that acceptance isn't being taken away. And there is a really big difference between maintaining like a discipline and maintaining structure versus showing just love and acceptance and holding your child right where they are. And I don't think enough parents know and hold space for their kids that way.
Yeah, and I think there's a correlation between what your vision of success is and then what you have to do with or to your child in order to get them to be prepared for success along the way. So there's a lot of correction that goes on, right? Correction, correction, correction. I'm like, what would it feel like if I had a job and my boss was just looking over my shoulder, correcting me all the time, looking for my slip ups, trying to get me to get to that next promotion or something. And like, I was be never okay how I am. I'm just
No.
getting
And
better.
all of a sudden you're starting to equate love with what you need to do. And you're equating love with behaviors and you're equating love with doing. And you're not ever able to accept love for just being.
Yeah. Just
And there's a problem. I'm going to use a really great example, which is I had the opportunity to actually homeschool my child for a few years. And one of the things we did was we stopped using the curriculum. And this is just, it's not for everyone. I know this, but I stopped using the curriculum. And when I talk about using children's strengths to grow them, this is what we did. My son loved sharks at the time. huge fan. So there was a website that had a whole bunch of marine biologists from Canada that had tagged a whole bunch of different sharks. And what I did was I looked at the big ideas of what the curriculum needed from him. And while we didn't necessarily hit every single point that the curriculum said, we hit the main concepts of the curriculum by using his interests. So it's not that I was like, hey, 3 sharks plus 5 sharks equals this. We went, okay, these sharks are in what ocean? Let's go look at the map, find the map. Oh, look it, this is the country. Huh, I wonder how we say that word. And how does, like, what does the C sound make? Or what does, so then we figure out the country and we look at the climate. And then as his learning's growing, we're expanding on all the things, and we're hitting geography, and we're hitting history, and we're hitting all of the concepts, but we're doing it within his strength, and he's happy. And I'm teaching him how to write a paragraph and then 2 paragraphs. And we're teaching how to do that. And then he's able to talk about his favorite subject. And those things are called strength-based learning, because you are taking what he's good at and teaching him within that. And things like he loved when he was being homeschooled, he was able to reserve his, are you familiar with the spoon theory?
Mhm.
So he was able to reserve his spoons so that when he wanted to go do something social, all of a sudden he's now going and being social with peers rather than having to use all of his spoons up in a classroom. He's able to now go, and start actually socializing and doing certain social activities that he wasn't ever able to actually do before. So when you lean into your child and help them grow that way, you can get a whole different, and it doesn't work for everyone, but leaning into their strengths is never a mistake. Showing them how great they are at something and showing how you can take that strength and grow it is something you can do for any child across the board.
I love that. I wish I had gone to that homeschool. I'm sort of curious how you managed to keep your heart alive when you were in the thick of 3 small children. I mean, 3 children under 3 is, and at any given time, right? 3 under 3, 3 under 6, 3, 3 under 10,
3 under 3, a lot of the parenting by myself, and then a son that was, my son, it was a lot. It was a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did break. I broke, and I locked myself in the bathroom almost every day, and I would cry, and I would, come out, drink a coffee, play with the kids, put them to bed, cry some more, try to prep ahead of time so that I could, have a slightly easier day. I didn't have a great support system at that moment. And it was really hard. And the only way I got through is honestly just one step at a time and one day at a time. That was it. And I can't say it was the healthiest, because it really wasn't. And that's pretty much what has been driving me to actually create this online community, was because the intense loneliness that I felt and the brokenness that you feel is something that I know other parents experience it. I know it because I've lived it, because you get tired talking to another therapist or talking to another social worker, and all you want to do is reach out to somebody, but your family is not understanding, and they all have their opinions, and your friends aren't understanding. They're on a whole different journey, and you're here and you're longing for more, but then to pick up your child and to go somewhere physically, that doesn't always work either. So how I kept the joy, I lost it for a while.
And
And I was going to say, the only thing that did bring me joy was my children, but it was tough. So
what do you do today to keep yourself out of the blocked parenting category?
oh, wow. Today I'm in a much healthier space. So I have found the things that my children and I connect with that bring us joy. And I make sure that we have our shining moments that we get to do together. So building Lego with my youngest, My kids all really love to read, and we still, even though they're teenagers, we actually still read a book together, and we read like several chapters. My oldest is obsessed with well, not, I shouldn't say obsessed, but he loves these comedy series. So make sure to just spend a few minutes watching and connecting with that. So connecting with my children brings me probably the most joy. Making sure I get outside and making sure I get by. I live by the water, so making sure I get to have some space by the water at least once or twice a week, making sure that I have time to journal and time to write, finding moments that I didn't give myself the grace to have. And I think that's something that I never did when my children were younger, is I never gave myself the grace to have my own time.
Yeah, it's one of the things in my online membership group of folks. We're talking all the time about self-care and putting yourself on the top of the pyramid, right? So because you can't take care of other people who have high needs if you're not taking care of your own.
But I'll tell you exactly what I used to say when I was a parent of younger children, which was, they don't understand because somebody is the one somebody has to pick up the crying baby, and someone has to change that dirty diaper, and the kids have to get fed, and there's only me, it's just me, and there isn't time. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Sometimes there's so many immediate needs that it doesn't feel like you can have time. In which case, looking back, I wish I could have just told myself then 10 seconds. Give yourself 10 seconds. That time that I was locking myself in the bathroom to just cry, I should have recognized that that was past my point, but that was still, I had 10 seconds to lock myself in the bathroom, to take that deep breath, to have those tears streaming down. You can take 10 seconds and open up the fridge and breathe in a cold breath of air. You can take 10 seconds to ground yourself. If you can't, in all of the chaos of the moment, find 10 minutes or an hour to yourself, you can find 10 seconds that you can intentionally just have here. And I think it's so incredibly important to have awareness that you need this.
That's what I mean, is that you can insert yourself in every 10 minutes if you want to. If you put yourself on the top, you realize, oh, I need to take a big, deep breath.
Yes.
Every 10 minutes, right? To just feel myself fill up again with oxygen, right? Just to be filled with oxygen, and that you can look out the window and see, a beautiful red bird on that tree limb, right? And go, oh, isn't that bird beautiful, right? To just bring something joyful into your worldview instead of focusing on the things that may not be going so great for you in that moment, or the child that's melting down, or just how tired you are, right? What you focus on, you get more of. And so, if you focus on how tired you are, you get more and more tired.
True. So, and that being said, it's so easy to fall into those patterns. So giving yourself the grace to recognize and be like, oh, I am not giving myself what I need right now. And it's okay. We all have bad days. We all have down days. We all have days that the world's not cooperating with us. But giving yourself grace to understand that you failed and move on is also a really important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I give you some time to talk about your new adventure. I'm sure that all of my parents will be interested in hearing what you're doing. So take it away.
Yeah, so thanks. I'm smiling right now from ear to ear, because this is really so important to me and I'm really excited about it. So I have been taking my online content and my courses and everything like that, and I've actually been building it into a website that has an app attached to it, and it's hopefully being live, and I'm crossing my fingers, in 1 to 2 weeks is the plan. So it's a monthly membership that you can join, and it was based off of, again, this one red zebra concept, this concept that the zebra that is bright red can be appreciated and loved for being red within the herd. They have a spot and they are being held and protected and nurtured there. And it was just based off of, as well, that lonely feeling. So I wanted parents to have a space that was positive and encouraging, and that really showcased that you can do this whole strength-based learning, and you can parent from joy when it just seems like it's impossible. And you can do it with this community of parents that are going through the exact same thing. So there is an online chat room that is off of social media. You don't have to go into any of those negative spaces. And so it's online chat room. There's a podcast attached to it. There's a question and answer period once a month with different experts that you can submit questions to, and they will jump on for an hour on a live call and answer the different questions. There are online courses, there are resources, and it is all just lovely packaged right there. So my hope and goal is that people hear about it and get to see it and explore it, and they find connection with each other so no one has to actually journey this alone.
I'm all for that.
It's called One Red Zebra.
I thought so. I had a feeling.
Yes. So there is currently a Facebook page called One Red Zebra that I am slowly working on again. So it had been put aside for quite a while. So it's coming back live. So hopefully you guys will be seeing a lot more posts on that one. And then there's an Instagram account attached to it. And like I said, I'm just finishing up building a few of the things and transferring courses over. And then I will be opening that live, which the announcements will be on Facebook and Instagram. So it's One Red Zebra. That's where you can find me, both Facebook and Instagram right now.
Okay. And so if someone wanted to actually talk to you, could they reach you?
Yes, so I have the messages in both Instagram and Facebook there. So, or there is the hello1redzebra@gmail.com.
Hello, and is one spelled?
ONE.
Yeah. So parents, I'm so happy that you spent this time here with Janessa and me today. I hope you learned something about strength-based parenting and the kind of joy and the kind of experience that Janessa is bringing to this entire group of folks who are going to take a journey together. So they're well supported in her new endeavor, right? An online community
Yes.
for parents with children who are neurodivergent. So I'm so grateful that you came and spent some time with us here. And I wish you the best luck as you launch your program. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it once it's up and running.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So everybody, thank you so much for listening today. We will be back next week with Unmuted Love.
Stop for a minute. Stop and breathe for a minute. Don't get over your head. Try to listen instead, won't you? Think for a minute. Who you want to be for a minute. Don't get over your head. You're like everyone else, aren't you? You could gain from being a bit nicer. Know when to talk and when to shut your mouth.
The Unmuted Love podcast is hosted by me, C. Eshelman, attachment and trauma specialist at the Attach Place in Sacramento, California. Our podcast producer is the amazing Saya Clark, and our theme song is Nicer by Houses on the Hill, licensed through Epidemic Sound. Thank you for being such loyal listeners here on Unmuted Love. I'll see you all next week.
You'll be just fine.